Hello, I'm Trevor. I'm in the group with Shayla, Miriam, and Alyssa, and we are MATS. Our experiment is to compare the GPAs of freshmen and senior students and see how their other variables affect their overall GPA. We will be using convenience sampling to condone our testing methods because the students that we sampled were all in the same UW class. The variables that we're going to have in there are obviously the GPA, the hours of sleep per night for both freshmen and seniors, and then also the at-home family status, whether you're single, whether you have kids, whether you're married, etc., to see if those kind of things play an effect. Our hypothesis is that the GPA will increase from freshman to senior year, and that more sleep will have a better effect on GPA. In our survey, most of the people were single, um, so it doesn't really have a huge impact on the survey since a lot of them are going to be in the same category.
Hello, my name is Shayla, and I am covering the GPA results and the hypothesis testing for GPA on slide 6 and slide 7. So on slide 6, on the left-hand side of the screen, the freshman GPA is showing a mean of 3.4 and a median of 3.5 GPA. This has a bimodal distribution with multiple outliers. On the right side of the screen, we have senior GPA, and this has a mean of 3.4 and a median of 3.3 GPA. You can see there's fewer outliers and a unimodal right skewed distribution. So on slide 7, we did hypothesis testing on senior year GPA. Our hypothesis, our null hypothesis, was 75% of students will have a 3.5 GPA or higher during their senior year. And then the hypothesis, the alternate hypothesis, as fewer than 75% of the students will have a 3.5 or higher their senior year. So we found that the p-value is 0.0002, and the p-value is less than our significance level of our significant level of 0.05, and therefore that gives us strong evidence to reject the null hypothesis.
Hi, my name is Alyssa, and we're going to be looking at hours of sleep, and specifically we're going to look at the senior hours slept in our survey here. So that is in the red. And first off, we're going to talk about our hypothesis testing. Our initial, or the null hypothesis with that, or the given, was that 75% of students will sleep more than 6 hours in their senior year of college. And ours, we didn't think that was quite true, so we thought that less than 75% of students will sleep more. So the H alternative would be P is less than 0.75 or 75%. After doing the math, the conclusion was that, like in GPA, the p-value is less than the significance level of 0.5, which means that we have strong evidence to support the rejection of the null, or in other words, it's true that less than 75% of students will sleep more than 6 hours, at least in their senior year of college.
On slide 10, we have the freshman and senior class scatter plot, and each dot represents one student who actually did take the survey. And starting with the freshman class, we see that there is a bit of a correlation, but looking at R square, we see that there is a very, very weak correlation because it equals 0.02. And moving on to the senior trend, R squared equals 0.15, which is also a very, very weak correlation between average hours slept and average GPA. One factor that might affect these correlations might be family status. If you're married and have kids, your average hours slept might be affected, which then affects your GPA.
Use our survey and the data that we collected in the real world. And one of it is useful in like a career. So for example, I am an education major. So how could the trend of freshman GPA being a little bit higher than senior GPA as far as trending. What it might let us raise the questions of why is that, and what causes GPAs to have a little bit more of a varied distribution throughout the GPAs, as well as sleep is more varied in the senior year than the freshman year, and so we need to try and imagine why seniors sleep less, and can that be correlated with GPA, and can it even correlate with family status? So the majority of students surveyed were single. However, by senior year,